Council tax is a property tax and not a charge for local services. I made a video yesterday talking about one of the many problems with council tax is that it is a property tax, and when we tax anything normally, it is based on what an individual earns or owns, whereas in the case of council tax, it's a tax based on the value of a property that a renter does not own. Therefore, they're paying tax based on an asset that they don't own. Now, a lot of people, 800 or a million or so, feels like it certainly, thought that what I was saying was that council tax doesn't fund services and that I really don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to council tax. Been accused of spreading misinformation, being unable to do a basic Google, just outright lying, and the confidence that people have been coming at me around council tax is quite extraordinary. So I want to clear something up because I think there is an element here of financial literacy that is missing. And the levels of financial literacy and tax literacy and public funding literacy that we have really matters, because when councils and government mess with the way that we pay for things, it's increasingly difficult to understand where that money comes from, how that money gets spent, who's responsible for it. And so I want to help by increasing that financial literacy and talking about the difference between a tax and a charge. So this is the first one. A tax is very different from a charge. Council tax pays for funds or partly funds services that your local council provide. It all stays local, and it goes for social services, education, waste, environmental health, public health, all of those things. Now, if that was a charge for those services, if you were paying a bill for services that you have received, that will be a payment for services and not a tax. So a charge for services usually means that something is reciprocal. You get a service in return for a payment. But if it's a charge or a service payment, it means that you can opt out of paying for it. You can't opt out of a tax. When it comes to payment for a service can be withdrawn or removed if you don't pay. You can't do that with public services. There is an option not to engage with additional paid for services or service charges. There are different enforcement rules. A charge or a service payment is created contractually. There is a reciprocal arrangement. Now, a tax, on the other hand, is created by statute, which is law. Council tax is created by statute. It is a law. It's not a service charge. Because it's a tax, it is raised based on something. So think about income tax is a tax on your income. Inheritance tax is a tax on your inheritance. Capital gains tax is the tax on the profit that you make when you sell certain things. Council tax is a tax based on the value of the property in which you live. It is a tax. You can't opt out of council tax. I know a lot of people think you can, you can't. You can't opt out of a payment. You can't opt out of receiving the services. You get the roads. It doesn't matter, whether you've paid or not. The court action and enforcement is entirely different. The legal structure around enforcing a tax is very different for non-payment of a service. Very, very different. And it's not, crucially, and this is the biggest difference, it's not service dependent, or services are not dependent on you paying. So the best example I can give is education. Council tax is a tax. You pay it whether or not you've got children in schools. Doesn't matter, you're still responsible. That's because it's a tax and not a payment. Now, if you don't pay your council tax, your children still go to school and get a free education. That's because it is a tax and not a charge for that service. Now, if you were sending your children to private school and you didn't pay the fees, you didn't pay the charge for the service, the school might say your child can't attend anymore, or it is a very different thing to a tax. So thank you very much to everybody who pointed out that, quite rudely, some of you, sorry, but come on, that I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, we don't spread misinformation about council tax here. This is where you come to for information about council tax that is reliable, accurate, and in your best interests. That's the difference between a tax and a charge. The comment section is now closed.